Throughout history, art has been a vehicle through which humans have expressed their most significant feelings and thoughts. It has served to symbolize civilizations and to join continents. Art is ever alive, a timeless link with the past, a common experience by people over thousands of years. The philosopher Plato said that a man or woman without knowledge of the arts cannot be truly educated. Thus, the role of the arts in an institution which dedicates itself to higher education is an important one. For art to be enjoyed, it must be kept alive. It must be preserved against both natural and man-made elements. It must be seen. During the past decade, Marquette University has accepted this challenge. First to preserve, and now to present its fine arts collection as a cultural and an educational resource. Like the grain of sand implanted in an oyster that one day became a pearl, the Marquette collection began modestly. According to legend, it began in 1889, 8 years after the university was founded, with the purchase of the painting Père Marquette and the Indians by Wilhelm Lamprecht. As the story goes, Father Stanislas Lalumiere, the university's second president, acquired the piece in Cincinnati from a friend who had won it in a raffle. This seemingly inconspicuous event led the way for other art objects to be donated to the university. As the years passed and the campus grew, so did its art collection. By 1955, Marquette had begun to regularly accept donated works of art. Beginning with old master paintings, the collection has quietly grown to include more than 5,500 works in many different media. But this success created a new problem. Marquette simply had no place to house this art.
The environment in which we were displaying the works, the Marquette University Library, was filled with fluorescent light and natural light, both of which are the enemies of art, that is, of art preservation. In addition, the space was not humidified, that is, the temperature, nor was it temperature controlled to the degree that is required in an artwork. We considered various solutions of treating the light bulbs and treating the windows, and in the end we found out that still with library policies allowing smoking in the facilities and this sort of thing, which is as damaging to art as it is to people, we simply couldn't tolerate anymore the environment outside a museum if we were going to responsibly take care of the works. The obvious conclusion was that we had to have a properly built museum of art to take care of the works, first of all, let alone display them.
The Marquette Women's Council saw the dilemma. It saw the fact that there was no proper housing for a collection of over 5,500 objects. And it chose to take that message to the community and successfully raise $2.6 million to provide the solution to house this collection.
This doorway still looks so flat.
We decided that we would build a museum, and if you've ever worked with 60, and it was 60 at the time, determined women, you know that if they decide on something, they're going to do it. And so we called a group together, told them of our plans. It meant that we had to find donors for the museum that hadn't been the regular donors to Marquette University. This was a project within itself, and that it was dependent upon our enthusiasm and determination, and that kept us going, and for 7 long years of fundraising.
In the fall of 1982, the museum site was the scene of Ground Covering, a conceptual art piece by James Kern. Construction for the new museum was officially launched at groundbreaking ceremonies in April 1983, against the background of a 100-foot mural painted with bold fluorescent orange and black figures and forms, designed by Keith Haring, prominent graffiti artist from New York.
One of the remarkable things about the collection at Marquette is that Marquette has never really aggressively sought to collect art. The art has, in a way, come to us. This has been a collection developed exclusively through private donations. Therefore, there is a certain, what I call, creative randomness about it.
The Marquette University art collection began with an eclectic group of paintings and has quietly grown to be a cultural asset for the public and art historians alike. It includes paintings as well as works on paper, sculpture, and decorative arts from the 16th century to the present. It is no coincidence that many of the artists in the collection share a common artistic theme. For great works of art, whatever their subject matter, are essentially spiritual in nature. Among these moving works are Francesco Trevisani's St. Francis in Penitence and his St. Mary Magdalene. The striking Adoration of the Magi by Claude Vignon. The intimate Dutch Interior by Joseph Israels. And the intricate Moor Robing After a Bath by Rudolf Ernst. Of the contemporary works, of note are the 2 paintings by Jacques Villon, Prometheus Liberated from His Chains, and Maternité. none is as well recognized as the pristine Madonna of Port Igat by Salvador Dali. As it is the test of time that establishes a great work of art, so it is the toll of time that can destroy this same art. Early on, it became clear that the Marquette collection was in need of major conservation treatment to complement the benefits of a new exhibition space. The Upper Midwest Conservation Laboratory in Minneapolis was chosen for this highly technical process.
I think if anybody buys a work of art, then they have a responsibility to look after it. And that means if it's a print or drawing or painting or anything, then they should put it into the best possible environment that they can, keep it out of the sunlight, have them matted into rag board, and preserve it.
In recognition of this responsibility, conservation work was begun in 1977. The collection was reviewed by outside conservators, and funds were sought to support a long-range conservation plan. In a special laboratory setting, conservators combined time-honored craftsmanship with modern technology and scientific analysis. Yellowed varnish was removed from the painting's surfaces, and necessary repairs were made. Finally, a new varnish was applied, allowing these paintings to come alive again. The vivid colors which had been dulled over so many years again become vibrant.
The primary objective is to preserve as much of the original integrity of the work of art as we can. In the past, often the term restoration has been used for work done on paintings, and the implication of that term often was that the restorer would recreate the original in some way. And I think that most of us working in the field now would prefer to think of ourselves as preserving what remains of the integrity of the object rather than trying to restore it to some arbitrary original appearance. When we try to do that, often we may create something that's quite attractive but isn't necessarily an accurate reproduction of what the original painting was.
Paintings are not the only works to suffer the ravages of time. Prints from American, European, and Asian masters, such as Dürer, Goltzius, Hogarth, Daumier, Blake, Renoir, and Kunisada, were badly in need of repair. This process became particularly crucial for such important works as Georges Rouault's dramatic Miserere. And Marc Chagall's Bible series. These works on paper were processed through a series of chemical baths to clean away dangerous mold and yellowing caused by improper storage.
Most papers, especially the early ones, are made of cotton. And, you know, to wash them, it's just like washing a shirt. You wash your... It's something that I wouldn't advise everybody to do. But, you know, there are techniques, but really, some of these early prints you can just put in water and they'll just the dirt just floats out of them.
In some cases, old acidic matting was removed as the backing material for such collections as the Barbara Morgan vintage photographs, and was replaced with new acid-free matting board. Tapestries were taken down from areas where they had hung for years and were washed, mended, and blocked. Frames for all major paintings were cleaned and repaired, at times calling for replication of antique molding designs and plaster casting. With construction well underway, the process of cataloging and research on the collection was begun. The entire collection was researched by art historians and specialists from across the country and from Europe in an effort to establish authenticity and provenance for each work. Objects were inventoried, measured, photographed, and documented. Signatures on the works were compared with source documents and art historical reference books. Artists' names were researched and verified. Art historians enlisted the aid of university staff in many areas, from security guards to librarians, and every room and building was searched in an effort to obtain an accurate inventory. University archival records were reviewed for possible clues to each work's history. This detective process was not an easy one. The differences between a later copy and an original are at times difficult to discover. Often the research began with only a general description such as portrait of an unknown cardinal. Through research, it was discovered that the painting associated with this description was the work of the 17th century Italian painter Pier Leone Ghezzi, and is now known to be a portrait of Cardinal Giuseppe Renato Imperiali, who lived from 1651 to 1737 and served as Treasurer General for the Pope. Equally as challenging as the restoration and research of the collection was the fundraising and construction of its eventual home. With spirit and fortitude, the Marquette Women's Council raised $2.6 million to construct a new art museum as their centennial gift to the university. These dedicated community leaders raised the necessary money to allow the museum to open free of capital debt without the use of one tuition dollar.
I think that it needs to have this art museum to bring attention to the beautiful gifts given by these generous donors, but also, more importantly, for the enhancement of the students' enjoyment, to be able to come in and relax and see that Marquette owns, and the various shows that will be presented is another form of an education for each of the students.
I do think that it will serve not only as a showcase for the Marquette collection, but it will allow us to bring in exhibits from other areas and to enhance different activities that are going on intellectually on this campus. And in doing that, we can involve the community. And again, there will be that nice relationship, Marquette and Milwaukee, Milwaukee and Marquette.
Meanwhile, as the construction project moved forward, the university continued to share works in the collection with people throughout the world. During the past 5 years, Marquette artworks have traveled to England, France, Spain, and Japan, as well as various places within the United States. The museum staff mounted special exhibitions throughout the Milwaukee community as well, and major pieces were displayed in buildings across the campus. Through these efforts, the collection has been appreciated by a growing audience while awaiting its permanent home.
This is not just a museum for Marquette. This is a museum for the community and for our visitors from all over the world. The point there is to emphasize that the museum is not an isolated thing, that art is not isolated from other aspects of experience and learning, that it's part of learning, and that it can contribute things that other things through words simply cannot. So we're very much interested in presenting this not just to Marquette students, but to the community. We think of art as a lifelong experience, a lifelong opportunity to learn.
The newest addition to the collection is a large metal sculpture by Ernest Shaw entitled Ruins 10. This Corten steel piece provides the museum entrance with a contemporary interpretation of balance and weightlessness, and accents the sculptural and three-dimensional objects within. Art from the Americas, Africa, Asia, and Europe, including the austere bronze Head of a Kneeling Woman by Lembrook. A collection of European ivories, Oriental and Western porcelain, marble, and masterpieces of stone and metal. In October of 1984, the collection was transferred to the new museum, culminating many years of effort. Precious objects emerged from the various storerooms and display areas across the campus to be installed in the new galleries, where they enjoy for the first time a climate-controlled environment with appropriate lighting and display facilities. Though the artworks did not have to travel a great distance, they nevertheless required careful packing and transport. The test of all this effort is the showing of these treasures. Stuart Silver and Clifford LaFontaine of Stuart Silver Associates, New York, who designed the King Tut and Vatican exhibitions, were chosen as designers of the Marquette inaugural exhibition, A Focus on Images, Sense and Form.
Our particular abilities deal with the logical and sensitive breakup of the space itself for the collection. This, again, as I said before, refers back to sometimes very imaginative and creative channels in which we like to swim in or drown in sometimes. Or it deals with the very mundane things, again, as people, how they move in galleries. approach an object, how you lead them through a gallery by the selective placing of various objects of either particular importance or oddity, which sometimes is just as important to change the patterns of people's going through galleries. You try to change their textural experience as they go through, so that you don't always have one kind of material following the next kind of material, following the next kind of material. You like to, as you would with a piece of music, create various passages that are profound and booming and sonorous, and others that are quiet and simple with a few refrains to it, and then perhaps a small reprise later where you repeat a kind of format. It is an orchestration principle to the whole collection and to the installation. It has highlights, high notes, big sounds, it has quiet sounds, and it has the full chorus.
We've got it now, we have to make it live and make it vital. And so I'm really, in my mind, moving ahead. To me, conceptually and almost emotionally, this project is finished. So I'm looking ahead now to how we can make it alive, make it meaningful, make it do the things that we said it would, not only to physically care for the work, we know it'll do that, not only to display the works beautifully, we know it'll do that, but that's only important if people come and use it and get involved in it. And so I'm looking now to ways to make that happen and to provide exciting exhibitions and programming that will keep a continuous creative life here. It's not a stopping point, it's just a beginning point.
The Marquette University Art Collection is now housed in the Patrick and Beatrice Haggerty Museum of Art. This museum serves as a focal point for the arts on the Marquette campus and augments the museum community of Milwaukee and the entire Midwest. Its opening reflects the recognition of a responsibility, records the culmination of many efforts, and is the product of a unique enthusiasm. It will serve as a forum in which to enjoy and appreciate man's artistic creativity, past, present, and future. From the many grains of sand firmly seeded long ago has grown this pearl.